So now let's talk a little bit about printing in a small village like this. What most people think of as printed material is the newspaper. Now that's very true. The newspaper was printed, or a newspaper was printed in an office such as this. It tended to be a smaller paper rather than the larger paper that was printed in a larger city such as Rochester. Now there is an interesting thing between the two types of paper, and that is where the news comes from itself. In a large area such as Rochester, or large for the time, you would have had news that actually happened in the geographical area. That is, things that happened in the south, north, east, or west of town would not have been known to other people within the town because it's such a large area. So news of deaths, real estate transactions, anti-slavery meetings, or any other thing of interest to people in that area would have been printed in their paper. On a small village paper, however, things came from outside of the village. When you only have a small population, as we do here in the Genesee Country Village, we're likely to see each other on a regular basis. That is, we'll meet each other in the town square, or we might see each other in the tavern or the store. We're going to see each other all the time, and thus we will know what's happening to the inhabitants. If anyone has a baby, or if anyone's cow or horse broke a leg, or such as that. So people weren't that interested in knowing what happened in the village itself. They really were more interested in what was happening outside of the village. So included with the local news were often stories that happened way outside of the village. In fact, it could be state, local, territorial. It could be from even overseas, from France or Spain. And depending on how far away the news came from would depend on how old it is. It usually came here through a stagecoach, or through the mail, or maybe up the canal, or some other way that people would trade papers from within different districts or territories. And so the news that happened here was also printed in the paper because naturally there's local business to be traded. But a lot of the news of interest was stuff that happened outside of this geographical area. And since there was no one to really police how it printed, or there were no real standards at that time about how the stories were printed, if I had to shorten a story or lengthen a story to fit a specific space in our paper, it could actually change a little bit. If you've ever played the game Gossip, where you whisper in someone else's ear and they whisper in someone else's ear, well, you know how the news changes from person to person. It's very likely that the news could actually slightly shift when you told someone else or reprinted the story from one paper to another. I think that's a very interesting bit of cultural history as well. We also printed a lot of things such as broadsides and advertisements for local businesses. Let me show you some of those.